Kamala Harris has apparently heard people's concern about the high price of many consumer products, and she is announcing that she is going to try to rein it in by going after price gouging. She tweeted, when I am president, it will be a day one priority to bring down prices. I'll take on big corporations that engage in illegal price gouging and corporate landlords that unfairly raise rents on working families. So price gouging in a number of different forms. Her plan will include, quote, the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, setting clear rules of the road to make clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers to run up excessive corporate profits on food and groceries. And she also said that her administration is going to do more scrutiny on proposed mergers between large supermarkets and food producers, because those historically do tend to increase the price of these products. And so they're gonna be a little bit more resistant towards that. And this has been a problem, as you do not need me to tell you. And by the way, in terms of the price gouging part of it, there's a lot of good evidence on this. Back in March, the FTC released a report on grocery supply chain disruptions during the pandemic, which found that some supermarket corporations, quote, seem to have used rising costs as an opportunity to further raise prices to increase their profits, which remain elevated today. And we have the numbers for it. So food and beverage retailer revenues increased to more than 6% over total costs in 2021. That's higher by about a half a point than they'd been back in 2015. In the first 3 quarters of last year, it rose even more to with revenue reaching 7% over total costs. And so all of this should be, if we had a healthy political discourse, the death knell of the claim that, no, it's not price gouging, everything's more expensive, and so obviously the prices are gonna go up. That does not make sense, that has never made sense. If the cost of these things goes up, then yes, you will have to raise prices to cover those costs. But if your profit is going up, then you're raising prices more than you need to. You are taking advantage of the situation. And when you hear politicians talking about inflation, but refusing to even acknowledge that price gouging is a thing, let alone make the case that we should do something about it, then you should have to wonder why it is that they're talking about inflation in the first place. It seems kind of opportunistic. It seems like they don't actually mind the increased prices, and why would they? Their donors are the ones that are making money hand over fist. It seems like they just want to get you mad and then stick you with continued high prices. That's how it feels to me. They're gonna try to manage this rhetorically on the right, and we'll get to that. But Jordan, what do you make of this?
I mean, I think it's a good idea. They should do it when you have corporations profiteering and price gouging people. I also want to point out, during the Trump press conference yesterday, when asked about it, Trump said, well, actually, you know what? I think they're illegal. No, they're not. And then he, from there, pivoted to a bunch of other different stuff. He avoided the conversation altogether because he's running to benefit corporations. He started talking about fracking, started talking about criminal justice reform. Nothing really of substance on that topic, because he knows, he wants that. He wants corporations to maximize profit on the backs of working people. This isn't somebody who cares about you. This isn't somebody who cares about inflation. He doesn't care about the cost of living. He'll run on it because he knows there's sentiment there, but he won't do anything to fix it. So if they're proposing it, great. Because like you say, John, if their profits are going up and costs are remaining relatively stable, they're just profiteering.
Yeah. And by the way, we already have quotes from their calls with their investors where they're talking about taking advantage of this. We have, I forget exactly which brand it was. They were talking about the switch over to digital price labels that they could update once a minute. And the example they gave, not like an example that some progressive reporter was like, oh God, can you imagine? They're like, imagine on a hot day, we could jack up the price of ice cream. What, did your costs suddenly go up on a hot day? You got more melt going on? No, it's just, we got the people over the barrel. We're gonna take their money away. That's all it is. They're giddy over the price gouging that the right pretends not to be able to see. Well, that said, with Kamala Harris now going after price gouging, it sort of puts the ball back in the court of the right, where they're like, well, inflation is bad. She's saying, let's do something about it. So how is the right gonna respond to this? We're gonna go through a couple of responses. Let's start with Larry Kudlow.
She's basically gonna bash businesses. She's gonna accuse businesses once again of price gouging and excess margins. And I just wanna say, these charges by Biden and Harris are now 3.5 years old plus, and there is no evidence of corporate price gouging or excessive margins or something called corporate greed.
I love telling an audience there are no examples of corporate greed. And at home, all these conservatives are like, yeah, that's true. I'm a populist and I feel like I've been left behind, but the corporations are great and I don't think anything should be done about them. Honestly, it's Fox Business, so maybe that is actually how they respond to it. But for regular people, they know that Larry Kudlow has his head firmly up a place that I'm not allowed to say on this platform. But anyway, we've shown you the evidence. We've shown you exactly the evidence of how food and beverage manufacturers specifically increase their profit margins over the course of the past 3 years by about like 18 to 20%. They were already profitable. They decided we'd like 20% more profit, and you and your family have had to pay for it. And when he says these arguments are 3.5 years old, do you know what that means? They've been price gouging you for 3.5 years. And furthermore, that's not enough for them. They want more of your money. And obviously, they're not gonna be able to convince you of that. It would look really bad for Kroger to be like, I should be able to screw you over more. But don't worry, they have people like Larry Kudlow to do the work for them. And so they will talk for years about how the Democrats are bad, prices are up. The second the Democrats say we should do something about it, well, then the corporation defense force swings back into action to say, no, corporations are the most moral actors ever. Everybody's being really mean to them. You should back off. But it's not just Kudlow. Let's give you a few of the political pundits' take on this from both.
The Democrats are trying to say, well, corporations are greedy and they're just price gouging. We know why prices are going up. When you have more dollars in the system than goods and services, prices go up. Inflation is the most proven way to crush an economy in a country. Government overspending is the reason why you get inflation. If you come in with price controls, you are going to have food shortages.
If they're going to empower and weaponize the Justice Department to go after small business, big business, and go after manufacturers, well, what do you think these manufacturers are going to do? They're going to have to lawyer up. And that means they're not going to hire a local yokel attorney that costs $100 an hour. They're going to go to the big law firms if they're a big manufacturer. Let's say they go after Kellogg's, for crying out loud. Oh, cereal's too expensive. Well, they price, supply and demand crisscrossing dictates the price. That's basic economics 101.
The idea that supply and demand in some sort of raw, primal sense are the only things that affect prices would be basic economics 101 if you'd never been and you just like kind of thought maybe that's what it is. That's not at all how the actual world functions. And Sean Hannity, of course, doesn't know that. He's been a millionaire for literally decades. He doesn't have any idea what any of these things cost. But more important to you, since you probably do want prices to go down, he doesn't want it. And he's telling you it would be mean to the corporations. And also, if you were to go after them, then they'll just buy high-powered attorneys. They'll be so desperate to continue to screw you over that it'll cost them money and they'll probably screw you even more. So we should probably just never do anything about the corporations. We should just let them continue to pick your pocket. And that's why I always make jokes about the like quote unquote independent right-wing media. But isn't it weird that they always agree that Fox News and the various clones of Ben Shapiro always feel exactly the same on economic policy? Like you can listen to Sean Hannity or you can listen to Tucker Carlson. You can listen to Matt Walsh, you can listen to Jesse Waters. All of them believe that corporations should be allowed to continue to do whatever they want, even if they've been saying it's been screwing you over. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they're just lying through their teeth. They know what they're doing. They know it's a problem, but also we need to talk about the role that corporate consolidation plays in this, because it's easier for these companies to raise prices without another competitor coming in and undercutting them by keeping prices lower, because all of these companies are down to like one or two in the major spaces. You have 4 companies controlling 80% of all beef production, 70% of pork production, 60% of poultry production. I mean, that's a vast majority of the market for grocery essentials. Pepsi and Coke raised prices by like nearly double-digit percents and just kept them there. Why? Who's going to compete with them? RC? Like, come on, let's be realistic here. And Pepsi also owns a variety of different like snacks as well. So they can do it because there isn't a competitor. So it's not just we need to crack down on corporate price gouging. We also need to break up these giant monopolies that control most of our food.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, there's sort of an acknowledgement by the Harris campaign that that's a part of it when they say that they're going to have higher scrutiny going forward. But I don't want to just look forward. I'm fine with looking back too. We have necks that pivot for a reason. We can do both. So let's break up some of these. Let's get back to some actual local and regional competition between these companies. That's 100% a thing you can do. And you can sell it to the American people as one of the single most effective ways to drive down prices. And people desperately want that. And we'll end on this. This is the reason that you have Charlie Kirk sort of like freaking out. It's that and the things that he snorts. And it's the reason that Sean Hannity is freaking out so much. They know that people want something to be done. So when you ask voters, should the government do more to take on corporations that unfairly and illegally raise prices? Baked into that is, do you think that they're price gouging? 77% of voters say yes. And obviously Democrats are represented more in that group, but 80% of independents, 65% of Republicans think that something should be done. Only 1 in 4 Republicans are like, no, that's a bad idea. And so Charlie Kirk and Sean Hannity know that their audience doesn't agree with them because their positions are ridiculous. That's why they're so frantic and so scared that something will happen. They need to defend their actual, like the ones that they're there to represent. They're not there to represent their audience. They're there to represent the massive corporations. And they know that they're losing on this, as on so many issues. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.